This is Paul Finck, and I am so excited. We're hanging out here with the amazing Michael Whitehouse, and we are going to be recording and sharing everything for our podcast and everything else here, but we are definitely here for you. We do have live chat coming in from a whole lot of sources, some of which I can see the names, others of which I cannot. So whenever you're chatting with us, absolutely putting in your name, if you would like to be known, would be helpful so that I can call you out by name and take care of that kind of engagement. Like I said, we are on multiple platforms and talking to all of you. And today, we're going to be talking about connectivity, networking, understanding how to build your business and your life through networking, and understanding the power that there is through connections, and what most people don't do in taking care of connections. We've got from Houston, Texas, and I cannot see the name. Coming in. We've got some friends from LinkedIn coming in. Is that Eno Bong? Maybe. And apologize for just destroying that. And for all of you out there, this is just the way we want to engage, is to get personal, to get real, to get here with you every day, and to be a part of your world. For all of you that are new to this, you will see how we roll and what we're all about. Let me start by just getting things rolling. So I'm going to introduce us with our podcast and get that off the ground. So welcome, everyone. This is Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, and this is the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. In the Maverick universe, we do it differently. We think different, be different, do different, act differently to create different results. And one of the key components that I know in our world that has changed so many different ways, so many different intonations of how this whole creation of our world got to this place over the last few years, we have needed to do things differently than ever before. And so for all of you that are out there, be clear, time to really dig deep and decide how you want to engage with the world in a different way. And that's what we're talking about every single day here in the Maverick universe, and what this podcast is all about. So we're broadcast all around the world. Absolutely link, share, invite others, especially to this live broadcast, because we want to be here for you and share this information all over the world. I want to introduce to you our special guest. Michael Whitehouse is here. And yes, that's you. Now, Michael is, and get this, the guy who knows a guy. Can you imagine? The guy who knows a guy. And it's so amazing that he's created that expression and created it as his brand. In 2014, he came to Connecticut knowing no one at all. And a year later, after diving into networking with both feet and hands, he was a major connector in the local community. And so he's a walking, talking broadcast of what he teaches. In 2020, he went global and began connecting people, entrepreneurs especially, investors, speakers, and others all around the world, to people that they needed to know, to really be the connection and the glue for everybody to make it happen. He offers his services as a networking concierge, making connections, building strategic alliances around the world. And he's the host of the Daily Morning Motivation podcast and the Guy Who Knows a Guy interview podcast. And of course, everything he has is The Guy Who Knows a Guy, and is author of The Guy Who Knows a Guy. Please, I am proud to be the guy who knows the guy who knows a guy. This is Michael Whitehouse. Pleasure to have you here, Michael.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's get real in what it means to network, what it means to make all these connections. And where do we start?
Well, I think the first thing is what networking is not. I talk to a lot of people who are like, oh, networking. Yeah, I don't like networking because, and then they proceed to describe something that is not networking. So they'll say, oh, I don't like networking because I don't like trying to approach people with an agenda and get something out of them. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds terrible. You should try networking instead. Or I don't like networking. I don't like going to those events and just wasting time and eating hors d'oeuvres and drinking wine and making small talk. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun either. You should try networking instead. And so I found a lot of people have these ideas of what networking is that aren't real. Because the thing about networking is it's hard to sell. So anyone who's trying to sell you any other way to make money will poo-poo networking. So if they're selling a sales strategy, they'll be like, you need to do this cold call strategy. Networking is a waste of time. Oh, you need to do social media advertising because, yeah, networking, yeah, what are you going to do? Just drink some wine and make some sales? That doesn't happen. So there's not a lot of people out there carrying the banner for what real networking is. And what real networking is creating valuable relationships, creating a relationship in which people derive value from it. And the key to creating valuable relationships is making sure the other person gets value. You can't take value. You can only give value. So if you focus on giving value in every interaction, then you're creating valuable relationships. And ultimately, just like when you put your money in the bank, they don't put that money in a vault and hide it. They share it around and it grows and supports everyone. And then some of it comes back to you. When you put energy, positive energy into the universe and into connections and relationships, that goes out and it helps people and it comes back sometimes from people you've never met. I help you and I help him and I help her. And then she comes from over there and says, oh, I've heard about you, that you're a good guy. I'd love to connect. I'm like, oh, great. How? I don't know. I just heard it. So that's the key to it. Is it's about putting that positive energy out, letting it circle back around and come back, and not, as I say, you don't keep score, but you do keep track. But it's not about just saying like, oh, well, I made 2 introductions for you. So when's that coming back? I hooked you up, Paul. So when's Michael going to get some? It's about, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. As our friend in common, Chris Salem, says, give without expectation and receive without resistance.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And I'm going to step into some of what you said just a moment ago, as far as what people, whatever they're selling is what they're saying. Yeah, that's the thing. And the other thing, no. And it always amazes me, as someone who teaches all the different methodologies and have been in business for decades, I've used them all. And there's a certain place and time for all of them. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of shunning one thing or another, but really getting clear with, and what our Facebook friend here says, givers gain, and understanding the value equation. And that's what true networking is all about, is that value equation of, and learning how to give, learning how to feed into other people. And it's not about keeping the score, mm-hmm. if you will, or going in with an agenda. And that's so key. Was there a time when you were that other guy? Because I know I was. Like, I used to be that other guy that kept the score, that went in with the agenda. And yeah, it's such a limiting play.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really was. So there's 2 ways you can go wrong on networking. Sorry, my monitor just shut off for a second. That was weird. Hopefully you
still see you.
Okay, good. As long as you can see me, I don't know what happened. So there's 2 ways you can go wrong with networking. One is the way you talked about, which is the aggressive side. The like, I'm here to make a deal and I'm here to make deals and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Right.
And then the other way is to be too relationship focused. I'm here to make friends. I want to connect. I want to get to know you. I don't want to be too pushy. And I've gone to that side. That side I tend to err on. It's like, well, I don't want to push people. I don't want to be too aggressive. But But if you're too far on that side, then one, you go broke. But two, you also don't serve them the same way because there's only so much you can serve for free. If money is not coming into your business, then you can't hire staff, you can't buy materials, you can't do anything. So you're not actually serving them. And if people don't invest, they don't engage. So that's what I discovered as well. Is I'm like, okay, I've got an answer, I've got some solutions. Let me just help you. And I try, and then we hit their limiting beliefs, and we hit all the other challenges. So I've when I err, it tends to be on the other side of not pushing enough, not selling enough, and not realizing that people are willing to pay for value. And in fact, they expect to. It's almost, if I've got a program and I'm charging for it and I don't offer it to you, you're thinking, well, am I not good enough for it? Does he think I can't afford it? Does he think I can't make anything of it? Why hasn't he offered me his program yet?
Yeah, the value price equation. I just talked about that the other day, and absolutely, value is transmitted by the price tag that you put on it. And so oftentimes we don't know the value of something until someone says a price. And we're like, oh, so that's the expensive one. Got it. Or that's the cheap one.
Yep.
Got it. And so some people think that they're helping people by giving a lower price. However, the challenge is it's not really helping them because they look at it like, oh, that's the cheap alternative. I'm better than that, don't you think? And so then they won't engage with it because it's not who they want to identify as.
Yeah.
A whole different equation. And so when you go in and that whole concept of understanding networking and understanding how to give value, and in not a way to go broke, but understanding how to be in that space so that it really works. And one of the biggest things that I like about what you do, the concept of long-term versus short-term, or more precisely, really short-term gains versus long-term abundance. And that's some of the definitions of networking that we're defining here. Is the others will network you in the very short, very immediate, and very low level of engagement. The real connectivity that happens in real networking is long-term, deep dive, sustainable success and abundance. And that's the differential.
Yep. And one thing I'll mention on that to especially my fellow ADHDers out there, because we hear that, and that's usually accompanied with, so you got to follow up and you got to keep track of people, and you got to get back to them and this and that. And so ADHD folks will despair and say, I can't keep track of even a dozen people, let alone, 100 or 200 people. That's, I need systems on systems. I need an assistant to take care of my assistants to manage that kind of system. And so a lot of people say, and I've heard people say, the things you must do to network, you must follow up, you must send thank you notes, you must remember names, you must remember details. I don't do any of those things. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Right. I'm just saying I don't. I mean, I am decent with names, but not great. The internet makes it really easy. Like, Paul, I remember your name. It's right under your face. It makes life easy. So if I'm on a Zoom call, I can't forget someone's name. I can take notes right there on the screen. I can, do reminders. But what I found is that what trumps all that other stuff is providing the value. So if I meet someone and 15 minutes in, I say, oh, I've got 2 people you need to meet who I think can help you with that. And within 24 hours, they got an email saying, Paul, you need to meet Susie. Here's why. And it's a good introduction. It's not just like, Paul, meet Susie. You're both awesome. Go for it. Because that's not a great introduction. But like, Paul, you need to meet Susie because Susie does this thing that I think you're going to benefit. And you should talk about, this. And Susie, you might want to promote Paul's program. So guys, go talk about that. If I do that and I don't send a thank you note and I don't follow up and I never remember to send Susie any emails after that, and I do nothing else, but I just made those introductions, then Susie's thinking, wow, what a great guy. Because she's got 2 introductions came out of a 25-minute call to this guy she'd never met before. And the result is I will run into people who, sometimes they'll reach out to me. Sometimes I'll bump into them at an event or online or something. And they will say, Michael, I just want to thank you so much. That connection that you made, it got me the job, and it really helped my husband, and our relationship's better, and now we're making more money, and this and that, and everything's so great. And I'm like, great, that is so awesome. Could you remind me what your name is?
There you go. So, and I actually want you to go through that process just a tad slower,
Mhm.
so that they really get it. Because this is, and I've utilized this technique, and it is such a powerful one as far as how to properly do that introduction.
Mm.
I do it. I love text, emails works great as well. Same thing. But what give me the layout of the format?
Yep. So there's two main things that someone's looking for in an introduction. Why do I want to talk to this person, and what should I do? So why are we here, and where are we going, basically, are the two questions. So the first thing is, give me some context so I can evaluate it. And now, if you're a known introducer and people know the quality of introductions, you don't need to layer that on as much, because for the most part, if I send someone an introduction, I'm like, here's Paul, he's great, you should talk to him, then people will take that and be like, all right, let me go meet with Paul because Michael said so.
Right.
But that's because I built a reputation as a connector, because that's what I do. If you haven't built a reputation, you need to sell it. So you can't just say, hey, here's Paul, he's great. It's, here's Paul, he's really great. He offers great advice to coaches to build their business. And this is what the value is. And this is why he's worth 20, 30, 60 minutes of your time. And then, why am I introducing you? So, like one of my, with a networking concierge, one of my clients, actually most of them, what they hire me for is to connect them to affiliate partners. So one of my partners I've promoted myself, has been a very successful partner for me to promote. And so when I send an introduction, I say, this is one of my best partners to promote. You should also promote them, because I think their program is great for your audience. So in addition to the other thing I mentioned, you should talk about promoting their upcoming program in December. So that way they're not getting on the call being like, well, so, hey, how we doing? Yeah, what do you do? It's, okay, so tell me about your program in December and why Michael thinks I should promote it. And now we're getting right to the point, and not, getting 27 minutes into a 30-minute call and be like, okay, yes, so what's up?
Right. And it's, so what you're saying is to be more directive with your introductions, because it helps the people that you're introducing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest struggles that people have is figuring out what the connection is.
Yeah.
And if you're good at figuring out, oh, well, that piece of what you do fits with that piece of what they do really well, you guys need to talk. Tell them. It'll jumpstart their relationship tenfold.
Yeah. And a counterexample of this is the worst form of cold outreach that I get is the opposite of this. So now people cold outreach all the time. A lot of times it's, Filipino VAs following a script, and so not even worth talking to. But sometimes it's people who mean well, they just don't know how to approach, or they're very direct. So I'll get a message from someone that says, hey, I do this thing. I'm looking for people who need this. Are you open to a conversation? If they're direct and I know what we're talking about, then I'm open to having that conversation, because it's not going to waste my time and it's not going to take a lot of my mental effort. Whereas if somebody sends me a message like, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be 6 exchanges before you get to the point. If somebody sends me sort of a nebulous, like, I saw your post, I really like it, and it feels like they've got an agenda, I'll just go straight to it. I'll be like, listen, tell me what your point is. If you're trying to sell me something, I'll hear you out. But, are you trying to sell me, or what's going on here? What's the agenda? And let's have the conversation and not beat around the bush for a day and a half. Because that's, the feedback on a chat could be hours. So, I get the message on Monday. By Thursday, I still don't know what we're talking about. Right. And I'm done. I'm not going to waste time on that. But if they come straight to it, they say, hey, yeah, we're looking for partners. Actually, the email service I use, the mail sending client, because they sent me a cold email and said, hey, we're this up and coming company. We're looking for affiliate partners to promote us. Would you be open to that? As very direct. And I said, well, let me take a look. And I looked at it, said, oh, you're cheaper than anyone else. You're just as good. And you seem to be up and coming and pretty cool. And you've got a cute little cow logo. Sure. Yeah, I'll promote you. But it's because they were right to the point about here's why we're doing this. Here's what's in it for you. Are you open to it? Because it's not just money is a cost. Time is a cost. So and not just time, but mental energy. If I've got to spend the mental energy to, if I'm reaching out to you, I'm going to dig in and investigate and try to get information. If you're contacting me, I expect you to be driving the ship. You should be the engineer of the train. I'm just riding in the passenger compartment. We're going where you're going,
So interesting. And I think there's a place for all those things. And sometimes you truly don't know. You truly don't know. You just know, interesting person.
Yep.
I want to connect. Only the challenge is that that's used so often now that it ends up becoming nebulous and ends up us just running around in the dark for way too long.
Yeah.
So absolutely driving the ship, exactly that metaphor and that analogy, drive the conversation so that you know where you're heading with it. And in that case, especially when you're connecting to people, helping them go, here's where the connection is, take it from here. And like you said, once you do that, to getting back to where we were talking, once you make that connection, you can step out of the way. They will, and this is really key, they will remember that for years. And that's some of the real difference that connections like that take. I was just talking to someone who was talking about a third party that I connected to two of them. And I connected to two of them, has to be 4 years ago now. And he was just coming back to me saying, oh yeah, we were just talking about it the other day, how great it was. They really used my assistance and used my help. And they're off and running now and having a great life. Well, it came back to me after all that time to say, oh, it was great that you connected us. They still remember it. It was 4 years ago. That's really key. And that's where that kind of connection and ongoing connection of people really pays off, because they keep you in their mind's eye all the time, because what a great connection you made for them.
Yep. The other thing about the nebulous, like the biggest red flag for me is when someone says, you should meet Michael. He knows a lot of people. Because this usually tells me one of two things. They have some sort of multi-level opportunity.
That's interesting.
Or they're looking for investors, and they assume you're a networker. You connect investors to investments. And that's not where my network is strong. So now, if they said you should talk, they said this person's looking for investors. This is Michael. He knows a lot of people. We're not going to have a meeting. I solve this with an email. I say, oh, okay, great. I'm going to connect you to this guy and this guy because they are the people who do this stuff. They get paid to do this stuff. They've got these connections. We don't need to spend 30 minutes for me to make these introductions to you. I don't need to know anything about you other than you're looking for this. The introduction will be, I got this introduction. It's not mine. This message is for you. I pass it right on. But they've got to be direct for that to happen. And so that's why I'm often very leery of those nebulous ones. And so actually, there's two ways I treat introductions. It's either go to a one-to-one, or I have an open virtual coffee, because I'm very selective. I only do about 4 to 6 one-to-ones a week now. I used to do 20 plus, and now I like to run a business, and I can't do that if I'm spending almost all my time meeting with anyone who wanders by. So the open virtual coffee is this kind of first tier. If I'm not sure why we're meeting, come on by Friday, 1 p.m. Anyone can come on in. And sometimes it's a great connection for me. Sometimes it's a great connection for each other. Like, I don't need to meet either of them, but they meet each other. And so it's an introduction I didn't even have to make. It's great. I sit back, I'm checking my email, they're meeting each other. It's amazing. But if somebody sends me a nebulous introduction, I'm going to say, awesome, I'd love for you to come to my open virtual coffee. And, this is a chance you can get closer than an email, but not as close as a one-to-one. And it's a chance to explain what is this about. Because I don't want to get to the point of saying an email like, what's this for? what is the value to me in this call? But I need to figure that out because I only have so many hours a week that I can work, especially because I have family obligations and I have other challenges that, I can't work 80 hours a week. So
I love that concept. And I will say I used to use that concept all the time, only I did it live. When I was in a much more localized, now I work on a national and international basis. But when my business was much more localized, I would go to the local, either Starbucks or Panera, and I would spend my morning there at least once or twice a week. And people got to know that I would be there, and they would come by, and I would meet. And then I would also meet the other people that did a lot of the same things, and all the business owners in the local area. Sometime in that morning, we're stopping by that Starbucks or that Panera in town. And it was such a great center hub of connectivity. And now you've created that in a virtual way. And what a smart, what a powerhouse thing.
Yeah. And it's funny. I did it. It was actually someone in another Connecticut business person who gave me the idea, saying what you said, that he'll stack them. All the contractors will meet on Friday afternoon at the bar and, get drinks so you can talk to everyone once. And I thought, well, I can't do that because my audience is international, but I could just set up a single Zoom room. And so I did it. I got a few people showed up, and then Janine Bolin, who I met this way, she was on my email list. I wrote about it. I'm like, this is working really well for me. And she took it and ran with it. And now hers gets like 15 people a week. The first time she did it, she said, I just saved 8 hours and made $600. I'm like, you're coming on my podcast telling me how you did it, because I've never seen results like that. And it turned out the key thing was it's now her go-to. Everyone she meets, unless they pass a high threshold for there's immediate need to meet one-to-one, everyone goes to the open virtual coffee. And that's what I was doing wrong, is I'd be like, well, if they're kind of below this bar, I'll do that. But otherwise I want to do a one-to-one because I don't want to, I don't want them to feel disrespected. Then I realized, oh, my time's kind of important. Yeah. No, I'm going to raise the bar up to, if I want to, if there's a clear reason, then let's meet. And if not, then let's go to the OVC and save my time, and you're going to get more value on it. You meet people. And sometimes I get there with one person and it's an hour long. So they get an hour-long meeting with me instead of a 30-minute meeting with me, which is my usual one-to-one. But it means that hour, 1 to 2 on Friday, is always blocked out. And whether one person or 20 people show up, it takes 1 hour a week. So don't sprawl into the entire week and gobble up all the time. It's right there, that much time. So I can actually, run a business. That's the key thing I discovered is if you don't have a product to sell, you can network all day long and you'll never make any money. People want to give you money. People were saying to me, okay, how do I refer you? What do you sell? What can I send you? And it wasn't that I didn't have clarity on what I didn't have a product. I was kind of like, I coach or, something. And so I finally said, okay, I need to develop a program. So I developed this, 6-figure networker. It's a program where people come and I transmit my knowledge to them and I give them coaching and accountability and all that kind of stuff. But now, I know who should be in it. I know how they join it. There's a landing page. It's very clear. Here's what I do. So if someone says, how can I help you? I say, oh, I've got a masterclass coming up that leads into my program. I've got a summit coming up that leads into my program. I've got a program. Maybe you know someone who needs it. So I have that, this is how my business works. So now I can actually leverage the thousands of connections I've made. But I think that's the other mistake a lot of people make, because you can feel really busy networking and it's like running on a treadmill.
Hear, hear. Yeah, it's so fascinating, that whole equation between your contact list, either real in your CRM or in social media, and your profitability. And the two don't necessarily meet unless you are deliberate about meeting the two. However, you need both. And most of the time I find people that have one or the other. They'll have this great connection opportunity. They connect really well. They do that well. They've built a great a great group of people around them that constantly are like, oh man, Michael's the best. Or they'll have a great product and it'll be a ghost town around them. and so oftentimes you end up with this dichotomy of you need both. You need to have that product, and that's something that I focus our clientele in on. What's your product? What's your price? Describe it, make sure it's fine-tuned, make sure it's specific, and then you bring that product through your connections, and by both driving the people to your product as well as driving them to all your network and everybody that you connect with, and helping everyone else do the same.
Yeah, and actually, I'll share a little bit about that I've discovered recently. That I think it's one of those things that everyone around me was also confused the same way, and suddenly, like, the light shined. So we talk about clarity. You want to know who's your target audience and solution you offer, and so it's difficult to narrow that in. Who you want to help? Do you want to help everybody? Because we're good, honest, abundant people. We want to make the world a better place. But the thing is, what I realized was that it's not necessarily the product that has to focus, it's the marketing that has to focus. And if you take 100 coaches, their programs, especially if they're live interactive programs, their programs are probably 94% similar, because what works. And coaching strategies are coaching strategies. And when you go to a coach and ask them a question, and they come back to you with questions like, what does that mean to you? And what are you trying to achieve? And what are your goals? Every coach does it the same way because it's the way that works. So what you're then doing is saying, I got a toolbox, and the carpenter who builds shelves, and the carpenter who installs molding, and the carpenter who installs doors probably have mostly the same tools in their toolbox, but they have different specialties, because they say molding specialist, shelf specialist, door specialist, because they shift the marketing. And that's what I realized is I don't have to change the program to figure out where the niche is. I have to change the marketing. So I'm doing, a series of master classes that focus on specific solutions, and say, okay, are you looking for this? Are you looking for more leads? Are you looking for more friends? Are you looking for easier follow-up? It's all in there, because if I teach you everything I know about networking, it's all in there. You're going to learn all these things. But what is the problem on your mind that's waking you up in the morning that the thing I have solves? It solves 20 things. And it's going to solve 20 things no matter how. I'm not going to be like, oh, you didn't want email? Well, we're not going to talk about email. I'm still going to teach it. That's the leveraged follow-up system. I'm not going to be like, oh, you didn't mention leveraged follow-up. I'm just going to leave you calling people on the phone. It's fine. But when I sell it, I need to focus. So it's the difference between, if you got a sniper, the sniper moves the barrel of the gun. They don't move their whole body.
Yes.
I think so many of us are trying to move our whole body instead of just aiming to hit the target.
You're definitely aiming to serve specific people. And when you niche down, that's why they say the riches are in the niches. And it's still a matter of, you can serve multiple different verticals as long as you have multiple different marketing, what I would call marketing funnels in that equation. And, it's so interesting when you start analyzing the largest companies out there, that they all have, Coca-Cola doesn't just sell Coke. and so it's a matter of, and every one of their bottled beverages, just to take that division in and of itself, every one of them has a specific branding, marketing funnel, directive marketing approach that they bring to market to drive people to that particular beverage. They don't care which one you buy. They make the same on all of it. It's just a matter of that different branding will get activated with different people.
And I'm actually thinking of McDonald's, who has the smallest menu of any of the fast food chains. Yes. Like, they have burgers, chicken sandwiches, and nuggets. I think that's basically their whole menu, like burgers, chicken sandwiches, nuggets, and fries.
Don't leave the salad division out.
Yep. Well, this ones around here don't have salads anymore.
They don't have it anymore?
No.
That teaches you how often I go.
Yeah, yeah. My daughter's 9, so she always wants to go to McDonald's, and I get so bored with it because the same things. But so it's like their menu is basically 10 items. I mean, there's a couple of dessert things they've added, and some coffee things, but the core menu is chicken sandwich, burger, nuggets, and that's it.
So what's the takeaway lesson in that?
Yeah, but they advertise, they advertise to parents and say, bring your kids in, it's fun. They advertise to busy people and say, oh, you're in a hurry, just come on by and grab a burger. They advertise to sophisticated people who want to have a meeting place. They advertise to all these different audiences, the same 4-item menu, and they change the messaging with the exact same teeny tiny menu, and everyone says, oh, that must be for me.
And recognize that we're talking about one, if they're not number one, they're one of the top fast food companies still over decades and decades, the number one fast food company in the world. And when you recognize that and you start looking at the business model, that's a really, called a clue. And so number one, the business model is they don't differentiate their product. They differentiate their marketing.
Yep.
And in network. And although we've gotten off topic, man, it's all about, and I love this conversation because it's all about how do you build business? How do you really get engaged and create something amazing? And from the marketing to the messaging to then, of course, what we started with here, and that's connections. And nothing happens without actually connecting. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I talk about also is who do you connect to? And I would love for you to delve in. So we talk about connecting, and you want to connect the right people, and you want to bring in the effective people for you and for others. Who is the right person to connect
to? You mean generally?
Yeah.
Is
there a right person?
Well, you want to connect to the right kind of people. You want to connect to abundance-minded people, not scarcity-minded people. Right. So you want to connect to the kind of people who keep track, they don't keep score. The kind of people who get it, that there's a value. And the thing is, it's pretty easy to select with this, because when you reach out to someone and say, hey, I'd love to get on a one-to-one call, and they say, what, trying to pitch me? And you say, no, it's a networking call. And they say, I don't do those. Well, sometimes the trash takes itself out. So it's easy, but people who get it. So when you say, now they may say, what are we going to talk about, or what's the purpose of it? Or I've actually, the open virtual coffee came about when I reached out to someone and said, hey, I want to call, see how we can help each other. And he very politely said, I would love to, but at this point in my career, I'm so busy. I don't have time for these get to know you calls. I really need, we need to have a reason for it. Right. And that made me realize, oh, I'm not there yet, but I look forward to being there soon. So let me have a release valve so I don't have to say no. But he didn't say, no, I don't want to network. He just said, my time is so scarce, I need to be careful with it. Do you have a specific reason? I was like, no, I don't. But it wasn't I don't get networking.
That's really key. And I've used that technique a lot as I got busier, I'm always asking when people reach out to me and I get introductions, what is the agenda for the meeting?
Yep.
What is our focal purpose? It doesn't mean that's the only thing we do, but why is it that you're calling for this meeting in the first place, whether virtual or live? And if they don't have an answer, I do move them into more of our group settings and everything else, so that, well, listen, here's probably the best thing to do. Why don't you get to know me a little bit? Would love to get to know you a little bit. Only we can do it in a setting that would give you a broader scope of what's happening.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, one thing I wanted to share before I forget is I mentioned the follow-up side of it. And one of the challenges is you're going to meet a lot of people, and then what do you do with it? So if you just push good in the universe and do nothing else, you're still doing well, because people are going to remember you and they're going to eventually come back and whatever. But he's kind of out there, and they'll be like, yeah, some guy, Michael Whitehead or something. He was great. He really helped me. I think, I don't remember where he came from or how to find him again, but yeah, he was cool. So you want to create some way to stay connected. And so what I realized, because I know I'm bad at individual follow-up, no matter what systems I try to use, I'm not going to do it. So I came up with the idea of, well, why don't I just create a email? I didn't want to call it a newsletter because that sounds very businessy, but an email list. But
Right.
the kind of email list that I'd want to add every person I meet to. So if I'm going to be offering my products and I'm selling this and come buy that, the worst thing is you meet with someone, you do a nice one-to-one meeting, you get along well, and then suddenly you're on their pitch list, and it's just, they're promoting their stuff, they're promoting their friends' stuff, and that's it. No value, no teaching, no stories, just blah, 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 blah. So I didn't want to do that, but I thought, well, what if I used email like social media? On social media, I share my stories. This funny thing happened to my daughter the other day, or I just learned something, or I watched this really cool video and it was interesting, or whatever. And so I started just using email that way. And everyone who I meet with, they go through my Calendly. There's a series of questions, so I know what we're talking about, because it's like, who is your ideal introduction? Who introduced us? Give me a bio. Tell me about yourself. So that way, It's not. That way we don't spend 6 minutes going, who are you? How do we meet? Why are we here? What's going on? Of course, half the people don't, sometimes people skip over those questions. But if they don't skip over the questions, we have a great meeting. And then the last question is, can I add you to this list where you'll get valuable content, and, you can leave anytime? And almost everyone says yes. In fact, it's I'll say yellow flag, not red flag. It's a yellow flag if they say no. If they say,
absolutely.
Yeah, if they say no, I don't want to be on it, because they can always unsubscribe.
Right.
They can sign up and unsubscribe the next day, but it's the courtesy of like, yes, I will look at 2 of your emails and see if it's any good.
Right. I'm always amazed that people say no when we're actually meeting either face to face or in a virtual meeting.
Yep.
And people, any follow up, they go no, not really.
I'm investing 30 minutes of my time, but I can't have an email in my inbox.
Right. I'm quick to make sure that I never engage with them again. But that's just me.
Yeah.
So,
but
wait a second. If you're gonna put up such a brick wall, and that there's no proper follow up engagement or any way that we can stay easily connected, you have a limited space for anything in your life, and it's not of abundance.
Yep. Yeah, and so what I've done is and at first I was thinking people would resist, they'd want to get off, but now people certainly unsubscribe, but they always say yes, they're always happy to get on, and so I share, and I'm actually at this point, and at first it was like 2 days a week, so I didn't want to overwhelm them, and I stepped up a little bit to 3 days, and then I had a bit more to share, and then one day I noticed I'm sending 7 emails a week, and people are replying, because you don't have to email them. It's not like it shows up at your door and is like, email for you. There's an email. You need to read it. It's one of the emails in your mailbox. You read it or you don't. And so then what happens is I can now passively maintain connection, just like social media. Yeah. And so you're seeing what's going on with me and you're following my story. And there's some people get on my list. I don't even know how. And they're just kind of there in the background. And then they pop up one day and they're like, hey, let's talk. Some of my best partners have been that, but also, I'll meet with someone, they'll get on my list, they'll be there for 18 months. They'll reply to an email one day and say, hey, I love what you're doing. It's been fascinating to watch your journey, because they can actually follow my journey through the email list, because it's not just, here's my latest webinar, here's my latest program, here's someone else's program. I'm sharing, hey, I'm trying this now. I'm going to do this. Here's the experiment I'm doing. I'm documenting my journey.
For all of you that absolutely know you'd like to connect with the guy who knows a guy and actually can help you with other connections, go to guywhoknowsaguy.com and absolutely reach out. Michael Whitehouse is the connector of all connectors. He's got multiple different ways to not only connect you, but also to teach you how to connect. And both of those are well worth the introduction of reaching out, of making sure that you're on either his virtual coffee or one-on-one or other ways that he's going to connect you and bring you into his world. Absolutely do that. Michael, and I know you also have the Powerful 5 networking tips, which they can get from you as well.
Yep, that's right there, that same link.
and the same link. So that's a condensed book on networking and your 5 tips.
Mhm.
There's so much more, guys. We've only scratched the surface here on this podcast and on this live. Michael, any other last bits of advice that you would share with all the people that are listening to us around the world?
The one thing I'll say is you can be a connector when you decide to be a connector. It doesn't take a lot of study. It doesn't take a lot of research. It's saying, I want to connect and help people. And once you make that decision, the path becomes clear. The rest is everything I teach is technique. Once you have the mindset and the decision, you can also make people's lives better by bringing them connections to other good people.
That is so true. And that intentionality and awareness of that you want to serve people really goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And incredible. Michael, thank you so much. Want to make sure that everyone has the link. It's right there, guywhoknowsaguy.com. And that people reach out to say hi to you. It's absolutely, this is how we do it, if you say. And thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to just let everyone know this is the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. You absolutely want to share, to like, to friends, subscribe, because we're looking to and continue to get this message out all around the world. And so important for people to be engaging in their world at a next level engagement, connecting with people all around the world and creating a better place for all. How do we do that? By sharing, liking, subscribing, and getting the message out so that we can all get into this huge connection and really make a difference in the world by one person at a time. Thank you so much. I am Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire. This is the Mavericks Do It Different podcast. And I've got a couple of announcements that I'm going to close out. Right now, I want to thank Michael for being here. It's been such a pleasure. And as always, we continue to connect and build. And I've been on your shows and spotlighted as a keynote on your shows as well. And what a great experience. And all of you that want to connect more deeply, connect with Michael. He's the guy who knows a guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everyone here, I want to give you some other bits of information. And for our live audience, we've got just an amazing event coming up. And it's right around the corner. So I want everyone to be aware the Maverick Success Live event is right around the corner. You've got to get in. This is a special invite and a special link. If you're here, absolutely go grab hold of this link. This is a QR code on here to get a special price point for the Maverick Success Live. And it is at mavericksuccesslive.com. And any of you that want to bring a guest, that want to be a part of this, come, reach out to me. I can get you some additional tickets at this special price. So this becomes really important. Scan the QR code and let's get clear. We're going to be coming up real soon in Vegas and then in Florida, and we travel all around the country. Why would you want to come to the Maverick Success Live? Is because it is a group of powerhouse entrepreneurs. As we were just talking with Michael, it is the way to connect with people all around the world. And because we have people that do fly in from all over the place, although the group is only around 50 people. Why is that important? Because it's not a sell-a-thon. It's not thousands of people. You're not going to get lost in the shuffle. It is about creating a space where we can talk turkey. We can talk real about exactly what's going on in your business. We do hot seats. We do a ton of Q&A. Bring your most difficult questions, the most difficult challenges you have in your business with connectivity, with conversions, with sales, with pricing, with packaging, with understanding what to bring to market. If you're not sure and you're just starting out as a watchpreneur or an early entrepreneur, come to the event to find out how to step up your game and how to create not just 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, and even 8 figures, how to do that effectively. And so we've got the tools and the strategies that we share all weekend long on how to do just that. And we have been creating millionaire after millionaire, even during the COVID years, in creating millionaires and how to expand and grow and develop your business and your life. I also believe in a balance of life, as everyone that works with me knows, which means we balance the business and the personal life so that you can actually have a lifestyle, have freedom, and have abundance in money and time to make it all happen. Thank you so much for everyone being here. This is how we roll. And thank you so much, Michael, for being a part of this. For everyone here, this is Paul Finck. This is our live, and we just closed out our podcast. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Till next time. Take care now. And maybe